This story is a story that Rebecca said that she found interesting.
Which must make it true.
Well, it's probably true.
It's true, Rue.
Am I the asshole for always turning down hangouts with my friends when they ask to bring their kids? I have a group of 7 women from university. I'm the only one that's child-free, but 1 is childless, 2 are pregnant with their first and have 3 kids. I'm the only one that's child-free, but 1 is childless. Does that mean that they want to have kids, but they're trying?
I don't know.
Because like child-free seems like you don't want it, or at least not right now. Childless kind of sounds like...
Huh. Maybe they want it.
Yeah.
Or maybe she just got confused.
We as a group rarely meet up. I've seen all of them maybe twice in the last year, and we all live in the same city. Every time someone asks to meet up and we finally find a date everyone is available, one of the moms always asks if they can bring their child or children. It's usually one of 2 moms, as the third actually wants to have a kid-free evening. Oh, I see what she's saying.
Oh, she's without her kid at the moment.
I think she's numbering her other friends.
Oh,
wait, no, I still wouldn't understand. 1 is childless, friend number 2 is pregnant with their first, and friend number 3 has kids.
Yeah.
I think that's what she means.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm still confused.
Yeah, it's written weird.
One of the moms always asks if they can bring their child or children. It's usually one of 2 moms, as the third actually wants to have a kid-free evening. And before anyone else can answer, the other mom always says yes. All 3 moms have husbands who can watch their kids. Most of them also have both sets of grandparents who are involved, but somehow they can never manage to find someone who can babysit, as they call it. So at this point, I've stopped answering until they've set a time and place. Someone has asked about kids, and I say I can't make it. I hang out with them one-on-one or in smaller groups instead. Well, a few days ago, we agreed to finally meet up. No one had asked about kids, and we were having a barbecue and wine night. Well, who shows up with their 8-year-old? Yep, one of the moms. I clearly didn't hide my annoyance, and one of the girls asked me why. I just waved it off, and 30 minutes later, I excused myself and left. Said I didn't feel well. In those 30 minutes, we hadn't had any adult talk. We were just entertaining the kid. I would rather go home than do this for another 3 to 4 hours. After I left, I think they realized this was a pattern, and I got a text from most of the girls in the group. Some were calling me an asshole, others just saying they were annoyed with me for leaving, while the third mom having my back and asked me to meet up later that week to do a proper wine night. I don't hate kids at all. I work with them every day and don't want to spend my time off relaxing with a friend having to entertain other people's kids again. Am I the asshole?
I feel like you went about it in the wrong way, but I think your feelings are valid, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
I think when all your friends start having kids is kind of the same thing as when all your friends start getting into serious relationships, and like you're happy for them, but you don't always want to subject yourself to being the fifth wheel or to being in a room with all your friends and their kids. However, I think you should communicate versus leaving half an hour into it, like just dipping. Like, who does that?
Yeah, I agree with you, because it is so hard when people, their stage in life just changes at a different rate than yours, and kids is even more intense than getting
for sure.
Yeah, because I totally see what you mean with the relationship thing. I feel like we kind of talked about this on the last episode, but there's always like a time in life where somebody that you love and you've been friends with like your whole life or for years, they get into a relationship and then they get married, and it's like they are now a package deal pretty much, and it's going to be more rare to see them without their significant other.
Yeah.
And it's almost sad because you kind of have to like mourn your adolescence with them.
Yeah.
But you have nothing against the new partner.
Right.
And you're like so happy for them. So it's this weird dynamic in, at least this is what I've experienced with like close friends of mine that have gotten into relationships. I'm like, it's so weird because it's like, I love your partner. I adore them. And I'm so excited for them to have a life together. But at the same time, I'm like, I would love to hang out with you one-on-one though.
Yeah.
So that is hard. And it's even harder with kids because people can leave their partners at home, but you can't really leave your kids at home. And it is apparently very hard to find childcare.
Yeah. Oh, that's tough. I mean, in this situation, let's assume they all have like a partner at home. like, can't you have a girls' night?
Yeah.
And the kid's 8. It's not like 2 months.
Yeah.
So with that, it's like, it does kind of get to a certain age with kids where it's like, okay, we can move this along.
It is so hard too with like the entertaining of the kids, because I feel like I am in the middle of people that love kids and hate kids.
Me too.
You're in the middle, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Because there are some kids that I'm like, oh my God, love you. Like, let's be besties.
Would die for
like,
you. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, I don't even, like, if it's like a family party or like a larger gathering, and certain kids, I'm like, I will hang out with you and I will have more fun than sitting with the adults. But then there's some kids that you're like, please leave me alone. Like, I don't want to talk to you. Yes. And then sometimes you feel that way about the same kid.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm in the middle, so I'm going to try to be unbiased. I totally get what she means, though, when it comes to not wanting to entertain kids, because it is so much energy. It's like, this is how I know I'm so far from being ready to have kids. Like, I don't get how moms do it. And parents in general, not just moms.
No, not ones, especially with a full-time job, with, you know, you want to have a social life, you want to do all these things and do it all. And it's like, kids are exhausting. They need constant entertainment.
Yeah.
They need constant attention. And I think at 8, though, like, just like, I know kids around that age, and I'm like, they do entertain themselves.
They do,
like,
yeah.
they can go off and play, you know, Legos for an hour.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that that was an issue, because I would think that's the case with like 5 and under.
Right.
And then around like 6, I feel like they can start just like being left alone for a while. But
yeah,
not like alone, I guess. But if it's
like alone to play in a corner while the mom or the dad is sitting over here.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that was maybe a choice then on the friend's part. And I'm sure the others are moms, so they all like, you know, want to just like dazzle at this kid. But the other one who's childless and maybe doesn't have like nieces or nephews is kind of like, okay, like.
I know. It's so hard too, because it's like, as people go through life, in like college, you talk about X, Y, and Z topic. In your mid-20s, you talk about whatever. And then like when everyone is becoming a mom, you talk about kids and babies.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something, and I don't want to sound like a hater if I've ever talked about this with you or anyone listening.
No.
I literally, and I don't want to say hate, I really don't enjoy talking about babies.
No.
And like all the gross things that babies do. And I just can't imagine like dealing with a baby like right now. And when everyone's talking about, oh, she like threw up on me, or like he pooped again. And like, I'm just like, disgusting. I hate it. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's like an entertaining conversation. Like, I think if you say like a one-off, like, of course they shit everywhere when I was walking out the door, like to get in the car to go somewhere. Like, I think that's funny. But just to like sit around and like dwell on like babies, like newborn infants, and like how gross they are, and like, I don't know.
I agree.
I just don't think it's like this funny topic that I like want to sit around talking about.
And it's like not where we're at in our lives.
Exactly.
Maybe we will at some point, but like I totally agree. And I'm also the type of person where I just marvel at everything like the kids in my family do. And like, I don't really have friends with kids, like not too many that I like see or talk to.
Yeah, me neither.
So the ones in my family, I'm like totally like everything they do is fascinating. Tell me everything. But like any other kid, I just like don't care. Like, I don't want to like, even on Instagram, we talked about this. Like, I've muted people because all my posts are their children. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I just don't want to see it. I don't care what they're eating that day. I'm sorry.
I know. I like how, I think it was, there's a podcast called The Skinny Confidential, and I'm pretty sure it was them. It's hosted by a couple. And a lot of people, when they have kids, they make the kids their life.
Yeah.
But I think it was the two people that host The Skinny Confidential. They say that it's like, no, you're coming into our life. Like, we're not good in like the kindest and like most generous and caring way possible. You're coming into our life. Like, our life doesn't now revolve around you. It's just like our life together. Yeah, I guess
that's a good way
I kind of love that because so many people do, and I don't know what kind of mom I'm gonna be, but I feel like it's such a trend, especially like in influencers, where if you follow them, then they become a mom, and then all of their content is mom content. And it's like, of course it is. Like, that's where they are in their life. But I feel like I'm gonna try to continue having like normal conversations that don't revolve just around children and babies when I become a mom. Watch me become a mom and literally never talk about anything else. I could also see that happening.
I don't see that for you.
I just love like being normal and not like, okay, I guess like this is maybe what I'm thinking. Like, you know how some people were just like meant to be a mom?
Yeah.
And like that's their life and you're like, oh my God, she is just like the best mom. Like they can't wait to have kids. That was never me.
No.
Like there's
either.
not one moment that I have ever been like, I want a baby. Never crossed my mind. I maybe in like 25 years from now, after I've lived out my youth.
Yeah. Once I'm in menopause.
Yeah. I just like can't. Maybe I'll just adopt children that are already 9 because I just find baby. But then at the same time, it's like weird because the idea of a baby is disgusting to me because I'm like, ew, like the vomit, the poop, the disgusting, it's just gross. But then when I see a baby, I'm like, oh my God, that baby is so freaking cute. And I want to hold it and I want to like touch its little face and like its little arm.
I know.
Like they're so cute. Wait, watch how I'm switching up so quick.
Because they are so cute when you think about it. They're so little.
I know, they're so
and so innocent.
And look how small their little fingers are. And they like move. Like it's crazy. This is how much time I haven't spent with babies that I literally am like, it's shocking to see a baby and to hold it.
I know.
My friend just had a baby last year and she's just so freaking cute and like holding her, I just want to like stare at her.
Yeah.
So like I get it too.
Yeah.
Why it is like so entertaining, like talking about kids and like being a mom. But then when I'm like not with kids, I'm in the mindset of like, nope, no kids. Like I'm out of it. You know, like, I don't know. I feel like, I'm on the fence.
I know.
I'm on the fence about this.
I know, because we're not like in it, so we can't really speak to it entirely, like how we would be in that situation. But I like, okay, let's say you're in a room of like 5 people, 4 of them are your coworkers, and like one of them doesn't work with you. Like, you don't talk about your job the whole time.
Oh, some people do.
I know, but like you should be courteous to the one person that's like doesn't know what the heck you're talking about.
Yeah.
And talk about like Taylor Swift Air Store.
Something of substance.
And I know people do that, but like I try to be courteous of just everyone in the room. Yeah. If I'm in a situation where it's like the 4 of us are coworkers, but this one person like has no idea who we're talking about, what we do, they're not in our field. Like let's talk about something else. Like we talk about work for maybe like 40 minutes out of like a 3-hour hangout.
Yeah.
But then like let's move it along.
I do agree. Like you kind of do have to read the room and try to put yourself in like other people's situations and be like, well, would everyone here find this interesting? Yeah. It's almost like if there was a friend group of 5 and 3 of them were engaged or already married, and it's like not everyone wants to talk about a wedding 24/7, even though weddings are very entertaining.
All consuming.
Yeah. They're very entertaining. There's a lot to go over. But not everyone wants to talk about a wedding every time you hang out with them. I feel like there's these things that happen in life that people think like everyone cares about as much as they do. And it's like getting engaged, planning a wedding, having a kid, and your job. And like really,
or just like having a boyfriend in general.
Yeah, but I feel like people don't like. Sorry, what were we gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say like relationship stuff. Well, I don't know.
Because I don't think that people talk about their maybe not.
Some
maybe
people
like
do.
Younger,
Some people do.
I was gonna say like maybe like younger people, like if you're in high school or college and you have your first boyfriend, maybe. But I feel like when you've been like in the dating game for a little bit, just sitting there being like, my boyfriend.
Yeah, like none of my like it's not something I like. It's just something I've dealt with.
Yeah. Okay. I will count that in like relationships, engagement, wedding. And then like people talk about work and kids. Like I feel like those things, it's like almost like people think that everyone cares about it. And I've experienced it on like I was on the wrong side of it because I talk about my job so much and I'll like leave. I'm a wedding photographer. I'll leave a wedding and then I'll go and like tell people about the entire thing. And I'm like, they probably don't care actually. Like they probably could not care less.
This is like where it's a little nuance, you know, to bring back a favorite word. Like your job, like I love when we talk about work. Like I feel like we just like are similar mindsets when it comes to work, and we are both in like a creative field. So it's like we don't do the same thing, but yeah, I'm picky and choosy with who I want to talk about work with. Let's just say that. I guess if you're curious about certain things, though, like you do want to hear about people's jobs, where it's like babies and weddings, I think are more, you can make more blanket statements about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, or maybe it's more of just like, because I guess when it comes to work, like there could be like interesting things that happen at a lot of people's works, and like work is, but that's why I feel like what I was just going to say is work is such a huge part of our lives. People tend to work 40 hours a week. Like that's a huge chunk of your life that things are happening and you're having experiences that when you go and catch up with your friends and they're like, oh, well, what have you been up to? It's like, well, 40 hours of my week are dedicated to this thing. So how am I not going to talk about this thing?
Exactly.
But then that's also how it is when you have kids or you're getting married.
Like, yes. I don't know, though. I just like work I find more interesting. Sometimes people tend to go on, and I'm like, okay, I don't really care. But like for the most part, I do find work stuff like more interesting just in general. But weddings, engagements, same thing. But like babies and weddings, I'm like, this could truly apply to anyone on earth. Like it doesn't matter that you're telling me this. It's like this is kind of a universal thing. Like what? If that makes sense.
What's an example?
I don't know. Now I'm put on the spot.
Like, are you just talking like, oh, like my baby, he
threw
burped.
up.
Oh,
yeah.
Threw up. Yeah. And it's like, okay, that
happened to Nancy down the street too. Where it's like a work problem is like, let's say you're having drama with a coworker. It's so specific to like you and who that person is versus like babies and weddings. I don't know. I'm just like, it's interesting to you because you're in it. But to me, I'm like, I don't care.
That is something I even realized with the podcast. I just learned so much about what is not interesting. And like there's so many things that I have cut out that I've said on this podcast that it's like a story and I'm like, that's so uninteresting. Like, and I only care about it because I'm in it. And if anyone else told the story, I'd be like, skip 10 seconds. Like nobody gives a shit. Like it's not that interesting. That is how I feel about people talking about COVID.
Oh,
it is like, it's getting to the point where it's almost a pet peeve of mine when people bring up COVID and like where they were and what happened. Because I'm going to tell you, me, you, everyone listening here, one day life was normal and then they shut down the schools and we were going to go back in 2 weeks and we were going to work from home for 2 weeks. And then it was the rest of time. And it's like, you're kidding.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that happened to you.
Do people still talk about COVID to
I
you?
feel like people bring up COVID. Not like every day.
Yeah.
But it definitely comes up sometimes. And not as much anymore.
Yeah.
But even last year and like the year before, I will cut people some slack. I also think that it was because life was so boring. People weren't doing things. So the only thing they had to talk about was like, do you know what happened when we found out we didn't have any Clorox wipes? And I went to the store. There was none on the shelf. Yeah. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. That also happened to 6 billion other people, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And it's not interesting.
Right.
Like, sorry, I don't need to dwell on it because I am like now.
No, yeah.
I'm walking back my point of talking about pointless shit that nobody cares about. And that's all I'm doing right now. So I'll move on. But sorry, I'm playing with my wig in the way that Sebastian Hastings played with his wig and She's the Man when it was Amanda Bynes and she's dressed as her. Have you not seen She's the Man?
I thought we talked about this. I've seen clips. I'm sorry.
Wow. We have to watch it tonight. I don't know if you can.
I don't know if I'm interested. Like, I just. Okay, I'll watch it.
It is one of the best movies. In fact, I went on a ski trip last year and there was multiple men. It was actually mostly men, but I talk about She's the Man a lot. And so they agreed to watch it. And I was kind of nervous. It does seem more like a girly movie, just like with the plot and the cover and everything. It's Amanda Bynes, like it's girly, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, I hope they don't actually hate this and are bored for the next 2 hours. Everyone was cracking up the entire time.
Really?
Like the guys were like throwing their head back laughing.
Aww.
It is so, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Okay, maybe I'll watch it.
Yeah, I think we have to. But anyway, in the movie, she's like pulling on the wig and she's like, yeah. And then I'm not going to give it away. You know, if you've seen it, you know what I mean.
Yes, blank slate.
And if you haven't seen it, go
Tabula
and watch
rasa.
it right now. Anyway, I feel like maybe babies and weddings, like maybe that's something we talk about. Like we can be like, oh yeah, everything's going well. And then unless someone's like asking you questions, maybe we don't have to like deep dive into like the most normal things that happen to literally everyone when they go through those things.
Totally agree. Normalize like waiting for someone to ask you before you just go on a 20-minute tangent tangent about your wedding.
Remember to not speak unless spoken to, especially if you're a mother. Sorry.
No, you're right. That was so mean.
And that was satire. No.
But it's just my opinion.
But I feel like it's like we're not telling other people because like we're not moms
right.
and we're not brides. Wait. No, my point was about to be opposite. I was about to be like, so we're not telling other people what to do. We literally are. I think it's more just like when we get to these points, we're seeing this now from the opposite side. And we're like, okay, like sometimes these situations might only be interesting for people that are also going through it. Mm-hmm. And because not everyone's going through it, like let's just keep that in mind.
Yep.
That when there's people there that don't have kids, their life doesn't revolve around kids.
Yep.
They don't need to talk about kids at all times. And I'm sure there's something that I talk about way too much with people that I can learn from this too. I'm sure somebody could tell me in some way how I'm like fucking annoying and like never shut the fuck up about like a certain topic.
Wait, that reminds me of that.
Oh, I thought you were going to rip me apart. I was like, what is it?
Oh, no. It reminds me of that Tana sound going viral on TikTok.
What is it?
Oh my God, it's so funny. She's like, I'll just send you it because it's, yeah.
Okay,
she's
should
like,
I insert it right now? The sound?
Yeah. It like goes so well.
Is she the one that is so fucking insufferably annoying and never shuts the fuck up and has never been hit in her face in her entire life?
I wouldn't say that, but if I were going to say that, I would say it about her.
Amazing.
I just think it's different when it's a wedding or it's a kid. I'm sorry. It's different.
I kind of think
it's more annoying by default. I don't make the rules.
Although I love talking about weddings. So for me, I will talk to you about your wedding. Kids, though, I'm on the same vibe as you.
Weddings, it depends on the friend.
My cousin, who's my age, her two siblings got married in the same year because they're like around the same age. So they hit that like milestone of like getting engaged and getting married at the same time. Mm-hmm. And it was also during COVID. So there was so much like planning and replanning and everything. And my cousin, who's my age, like got to the point where she was like, I can't do wedding stuff anymore. Like I just want to elope.
Yeah.
And she just like doesn't enjoy talking about weddings now. Well, maybe she's reset. Maybe she's like come back from it and reset. I'm not sure yet. But she is a good example of someone who's like on your side. Like I don't need to talk about weddings 24/7.
Yeah.
Like they're not that interesting. It's all the same. It's all you plan a day and then it happens and it's done.
Mm-hmm. Like unless your like groom runs away with your cousin, like I don't want to hear about this. Sorry.
Wait, I kind of agree though. I kind of agree. And I also think this comes with like people make drama out of like nothing.
Yes.
Like I have literally heard people
I'm sure you've heard it all. Oh my God.
And be like, I couldn't even hear her saying her I'm not going to say who this is or how I know this person, but I heard someone say this about a wedding they went to, like their loved one's wedding. I couldn't even hear her say her vows. It was like she was crying the whole time. And I'm like, yeah, like it's only the most emotional day of her life and she was caught up in it. Like so sorry that you couldn't hear her. Here, I'll say them right now. For better, for worse, Richard for poorer. Like it's not that and it was a church ceremony. So it's not like she's giving these like heartfelt vows that like everyone wants to hear because it warms their heart. I'm like, why don't we just cut people some slack?
Yeah.
Why don't we just let people enjoy their day? And if you can't hear every single word that they say on their wedding day, it's okay.
It's going to be A-okay.
I love wedding drama though, so I feel like I'm being hypocritical. No, it's like if your wedding goes perfectly and the only issue is that the bride's tearing up a little bit during her vows and everyone in row 37 of the church can't hear her say, I do. If that's the only thing that goes wrong, what I want to hear about your wedding is it was a great day and everything went well. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And when I say me, I don't mean me because I like hearing about weddings, but the general me. The general me.
Yeah.
What am I saying? Right?
I like hearing about weddings when I...
I also love hearing about children. Sorry.
Tell me everything.
What are we saying? You know what? The title of this episode is what we're acting out literally right now.
I like hearing about I like a recap.
Yeah.
I enjoy a recap of a bachelorette trip, of not a bridal shower, I'm sorry, of a, those gotta go.
If I never step foot in another shower again, I will be happy.
Including my own.
Facts.
But yeah, I enjoy a recap of a wedding. I just like the wedding planning maybe is what I more so just check out on a little bit.
Yeah, I feel
I'm like,
that's
oh,
a
that's
good
really
point.
expensive. Oh, you don't say. I thought it was going to be $5. Like, what do you want me to say?
I feel bad saying
Did you
this
try
too.
Amazon?
I feel bad saying this stuff because like these things that people are talking about, it's like literally the biggest thing that's ever happened to you.
Yeah, I know.
It's like your
Sorry.
wedding. It only happens once, hopefully. Having a baby, biggest thing
Yeah.
that will change your life forever. So like of course people are going to talk about it. I just really feel for the people that haven't hit that stage yet that are like, I love you so much, could not care less.
Yeah.
So
it's-
sorry.
It's not always about like hitting that stage either. Sometimes I could picture myself being in that stage and still not wanting to hear about it.
Yeah.
Because I know, it was like an influencer. It might have been the Skinny Confidential. I think it was her because she like has said she loves her kids so much, but she like doesn't really care to hear or like about other kids as much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that's going to be me. I could picture myself having my own kids and still not really wanting to hear about other people's kids all the time or even
Yeah.
talk about my own all the time. Like, let's talk about our passions, our travels,
Oh my God.
reminisce
yes.
on old stories from college.
This is like completely a different like point, I feel like, but to go off of that, like I have noticed that in life, like the number one thing that people ask you about when you go to a family party, when you see a friend you haven't seen in a while is, are you dating anyone? Or like, how's the boyfriend? This has literally happened to me at a family party. You know what? I'm just going to say it. I'm not trying to hate on anyone, but I literally experienced this exact thing at a family party. Someone that I love dearly came up to me, Erin, Trisha, and one other cousin of ours and was like, how's the boyfriend? How's the boyfriend? Okay. And like walked away because two of us were they were in relationships and then two of us weren't.
Oh.
I literally am not spoken to at family
That's
parties.
bad.
Yeah,
That's
because
bad.
I didn't have a boyfriend. At this party, it's like nobody asks me and like digs deeper about how I'm doing because I didn't have a boyfriend. Like,
Yeah.
cool. Even now, every time I see someone, it's like, oh, are you dating anyone? Like, and it's not like my friends, it's like more distant people. This is what I want to achieve in my life. I'm dating someone in the nicest way possible. That's the least interesting thing about me. Like, it actually is.
Yeah.
And when I get married, the fact that I'm married, least interesting thing about me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about my passions, my travels, my friends, what I do on the weekends, what I fill my time with, my job that I love.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the podcast. Like, sure, ask how my boyfriend is. I'll tell you. We don't have to talk about someone else
Right.
that isn't even here for like 10 minutes. And my sister dated someone for 5 years. They broke up and randomly, like my other friend, his mom was like asking questions about our friend group. And she was like, oh, and like, what about Kelly's sister, Erin? What's her deal? Like, how is she doing? And he told me that. He was like, oh, my mom asked about Erin and she was just asking about everyone.
Yeah.
And I remember my sister was like, oh my God, that's the first person that asked about me in years.
Wow.
Because everyone says to her, and how's your boyfriend? How's he doing? How's the
Weird.
boyfriend? How's his dog? I'm like, they will literally talk to my sister and they broke up at this point. So she's not really experiencing this anymore. But for years, people like loved ones that we see like only a couple times a year, they literally talk about my sister's boyfriend's dog and they don't even ask me how I'm doing. Like, not that I'm dying to like have people ask me how I'm doing. Like, I am happy to sit in silence and like only talk to like a few of the people. Like, it's fine. Like, I don't need people to like ask about me, but it's just so weird to see it from like both sides because my sister saw it from her side and she's like,
Yeah.
actually, it hurts me
Yeah.
that you only ask about, oh, how's your boyfriend and how are you guys doing?
Right.
What about me?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I have a boyfriend, but like, and
Right.
like, it just is annoying.
Yeah. I wonder if that's a generational thing and if like we'll be like that when we are like in our 40s, 50s, 60s. I really hope not.
I hope not. I haven't
Because-
really thought about that, but I don't know. It's like, I almost feel like that is what you ask when you don't really know someone that well.
Yeah.
And
it's
you
kind
don't
of-
know what
yeah.
to talk to them about.
It's like on the list of things, but it's like it's always first.
It's always first.
It could be second.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking
I don't know.
for.
And I also think that nobody asks, like, it's like boyfriend status and job status. Like, nobody is asking, what do you do for fun?
Yeah.
What do you do after work? How often do you see your friends? Do you ever go out in like this
Right.
part of town? Like nothing.
Right.
Like what sports do you play for fun? Like nobody cares.
Yeah.
And it's like deep down, does nobody care at all? And they just, they don't care about my job. They don't care about my boyfriend. They don't care about anything. But job, boyfriend, that's easy to ask about.
Yeah.
I don't know. And like if they don't care, like that's fine too. I don't need like every one of my aunts and uncles to like deeply care about what I do after work. Like
Right.
that's not what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
What
but-
I'm getting at is though, it's just like annoying that like that's the only question. And there's literally times where if you are not in a relationship, you're not even addressed. I'm like, cool.
Because it's the principle. It's like,
It's the
do I
principle.
necessarily want to talk about my passions on a 10-minute long tangent with you right now? Like, maybe not. But
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
I would like to be asked.
Yeah, it's not even, but no, I would like to talk about that because if they're into it too, like
Yeah.
if someone was like, oh, well, what do you do for exercise? Or like, what have you and your friends been up to? And I'm like, oh, well, we play tennis a lot.
Yeah.
If they were like, oh my God, I did X, Y, and Z involving tennis, or what do you like most about tennis?
Yeah.
Like I could talk about tennis. Like I love talking about it. I could talk about surfing, snowboarding. Like I love talking about that stuff.
Right.
And no one's ever asked me about it.
Right. I know. It's also hard because like once you answer the boyfriend thing, like there's really not a lot of follow-up questions.
Because it's the
You know?
love him, adore him, wonderful person, least interesting thing about me.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Love
I am
that.
so much more than the person I'm dating.
Yes.
And so are you. And so are you.
Yep.
Literally everyone is.
Yep. Agreed.
I just think it's an easy out, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I guess it's like awkward though when you say like this happened to me recently at a family function. I was asked multiple times and I was like, no. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm not providing you with like more information. Like, I'm just,
Yeah.
you're not like the person I'm going to do this with and like get into my dating life. Like, you're not the one.
I feel like people don't even ask me that anymore because I was single for so long that
Yeah.
they're just like, or they just don't even talk to me.
Oh.
I'm not trying to like make it seem like my family members are like not wonderful people or that they just like
But I get it.
ignore
It's-
me.
It's every family, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
It's many families
Yeah.
who are like that. Yeah.
It's just like
I get you.
are literally treated different in life
You are.
if you are single and if you are in a relationship. Like those statuses, like you're treated differently and it's fucking annoying.
Because I think a lot of people in relationships have made it that way. Like people before us, I mean. Or just
Maybe.
like pop culture has shaped it too, where it's like if you're like Taylor Swift, not to make everything about Taylor Swift,
But everything is.
but everything kind of is because it's like maybe she's actually a bad example, but I just feel like people act like they've won a prize when they have a significant other or they're like ahead of you in life in some way.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that's a good point.
Versus like being single and you're not kind of seen on the same level, even if you're top of your
Yes.
game, even if you make a ton of money, have property, have a ton of friends, are a kind person, but you don't have a boyfriend, so you're here. And it's like, why?
No, that is so true.
Like
That is so true. And I don't really have like specific examples of that for myself, but I just feel like that's like a trope or like a motif of life.
Yeah.
Like you could be like killing it at work and have so many friends and be so happy. And then people would still say, oh, but like, don't you think you're missing something?
Right.
Or like, are you dating? Are you trying to find a boyfriend? And it's like, that's not everyone's number one goal at all times.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not trying to say people don't want it because most people, if you presented them with the person that was meant to be their soulmate, I'm going to guess most people would take it and they
Right.
would get into a relationship with them.
Right.
But like, not everyone is out like on dating apps actively being like, I want a boyfriend. And whether you do or whether you don't, like you're on the same, like you're not a good person, you're not a bad person, whether you want a boyfriend or whether you don't. And you're not like more sad or less sad, whether you want a
Yes.
boyfriend or whether you don't. Like that's not what like makes you who you are. And like that doesn't make you more interesting, less interesting, further along, better than anyone else. Like it doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
I feel like if it matters to you, like I don't want to say like that's a problem, but if you feel like behind or like people are treating you like they feel bad for you because
Yes.
you're single, like that's not good. I just think we don't need to treat people differently and like dwell on if they're in a relationship or not.
And I really hope that I think times are changing, like slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Maybe in our lifetime, at least like before the age of 40, I don't think it's going to happen where people view single people in the same way as people in relationships. Like, I think it's going to take a long time for like single independent women or men to be just as deserving of like happiness and success almost.
Yeah.
Like, I think we've come a long way for sure, but it's just like, I've even had friends who I think are so well intentioned, like I really do, but can be so condescending with dating and like, oh, Rebecca, like, how's it going? Or like, you know, just like saying like, you know how it is. Like, it's just, I don't know. Can we move on?
Yeah. No, it's
like,
it's so annoying.
Who just like don't understand that like you can be happy and single. Like, people don't understand that.
No, they don't.
It's like trying to, and I've tried to explain to people who are like that, like I'm so happy and so content with my life, and like a man would add to that, but it's not a void in my life.
Yes.
You
okay.
know?
That is
and
a great way to put
like,
it.
I am dating, but it's just like, I have some things I'm looking for.
No, that's such a good way to put it. And I feel like a lot of people who are older than me that I've experienced conversations with, they think that something is missing.
Yeah.
Or like they think that like that is what you're like working towards. And and if you are working towards that, like if you're like, I want to find my person, putting an effort for dating, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's not everyone's whole goal. Like it's okay that that's not people's goal. And I feel like so many people don't understand that.
No, literally. And like, I'm also someone that goes through phases of like really wanting to date and really like not. Lately I've been not. But like, I don't want it to sound like, oh, I'm like, I don't know, like I'm so up here, I'm so above like every man ever. But it's like, you're allowed to just be okay sometimes with where you're at.
Yeah.
And you know what, and this is kind of more of a recent thing where I've decided like some people who I love dearly, but I'm just not talking about my dating life with them. Like, they're just they're off limits from now on. I don't need the like little tone. Like, I don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
I feel like I feel you. Even like certain members of my family, like for a long time, I was the only single one. There's like a bunch of girls my age in my like cousin group, and Trisha's one of them, Erin's one of them. For a very long time, I was the only one that was single. Mm-hmm. And I almost feel like I was treated differently.
Yeah.
And people like didn't take me as seriously.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a boyfriend. I also feel like this kind of comes from being a freelancer and not having like a 9-to-5 job. But when you're a freelancer, I'm sure if anyone's listening that's a freelancer, I'm sure you understand this. And if you're thinking about freelancing, get ready for these comments. Everyone thinks you are in need and you need a job and you need help and you need more. And I get that it may be coming from a place of like, oh, I want to help you. Like, you're a freelancer. Let me try to get you work. Like, the amount of times I have heard, maybe it's time for corporate America, or like, this job is hiring. They pay X amount of money. Like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, you want me to go get a corporate job and make the same amount of money, if not less, than what I make as a, like, I'm not struggling just because I'm self-employed. Like, I work just as hard as you. I work just as hard as everyone that goes to an office every day that has an employer. Like, I'm fine. Like, I appreciate it, but I like feel that those comments are coming from a place of like, oh, well, she must make like $4 a year and like she's struggling, and it just is annoying. I don't know. I just feel like people don't take me seriously. Yeah. And I get that part of that comes from like people love you. And like, it's almost like if you want to start a new business, like just do not tell anyone. If you invent something, if you have a new idea and you're like building a business and you're serious about it and you really believe in it, tell like 2 people and don't ask them for advice. Be like, I don't need your advice. I just want to tell you, because it is second nature for everyone to tell you why you shouldn't do something.
Yeah. And
that happens to me all the time. As a freelancer, it's like, here's a job that's open. Here's X, Y, and Z. This person's hiring. And I'm like, I don't need this. You're not sending it to anyone else. Why are you sending it to me? And if it happened once, I'm like, oh, well, that's nice that you thought of me. But like, I'm actually fine. I have a job. And then if it happens again, I'm like, yeah, cool. Like, I'm actually, I'm doing great. Like, I'm not looking for a job. It's now insulting.
Yeah.
If you were to send me a job listing for something that's like so irrelevant, unless it's like in-house photographer at Vogue, like, I don't need a job listing. Like, and I feel that all of this like comes together. Like it all plays a role, because I almost feel like if I was engaged and I was a photographer, nobody would say shit to me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, she's going to get married to a man. Like, she doesn't need this job listing. She can do her little rinky-dink photography. And I'm like, okay, let's not try to toot my own horn, but like, I work hard in that and I don't need your fucking pity.
Yeah.
And I'm fine not having a boyfriend, not having a boyfriend, being engaged, not being engaged. Like I said before, that's the least interesting thing about me. You don't need to feel any type of way towards me because of my relationship status, and don't treat me differently because of it.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just like,
no, I
feel you.
I feel you. Yeah, I think we need to be more accepting of our freelancers and our single people, okay?
And our childless people.
Yes.
It like literally all sorry, we're so far off of the story, but I feel that like on the grand scheme of things, these things like all play a role.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like these friends of this girl, like, to get back to the original story, which is like, is she the asshole for not wanting to hang out with her friends' kids? Like, no. And like, these people are like almost like looking at her differently.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have kids and like doesn't want to hang out with kids. And like, I kind of agree with the first thing you said, going back to literally an hour ago. And you were like, she probably handled it the wrong way. I do think that when you're actively hanging out with your friends and then you leave after 30 minutes, like, that's a little weird.
Yeah, it's a little rude.
Yeah, I don't think I would do that.
Right, like, yeah.
But I feel like I would maybe just, my first attempt would be to change the subject and be like, well, we talked about your kids. Like, right. How is this going? How is X, Y, and Z? Or like, right. I have some exciting news to share. Like,
pivot.
This is what I've been up to. Yeah, like kind of pivot there. Yeah. I feel like there's a way to do that too. And then you could also, if these are your best friends, you can also be honest with them and be like, guys, you know I love you so much. Like, and I love hearing about your kids, but would you guys want to talk about something that we can all relate to?
Right.
And I know that sentence that I just said, it kind of sounds like awkward. Like, it kind of sounds like a lot of words to say out loud to someone. It feels like weird to say that. But if my friend said that to me, I would be like, oh my God, wait, you're so right. Like, right. That's so true. Like, I'm so sorry. If I was talking about my job with like 3 of my coworkers for an hour, and then the 5th party there said to me like, hey guys, like, I'm sorry to be like kind of annoying, but I don't really understand everything you're talking about. Like, could we talk about like a different thing? I would actually be like, of course we can.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sorry that went on for that long.
Right.
And you were feeling excluded or like whatever.
A lot of people don't have that awareness though, to like.
Well, maybe we should build it. Sorry, that came off so passive aggressive.
No, we should.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what we're working on.
We should all work on building awareness.
And the awareness that like having kids,
including myself.
Actually, you know what? I feel like all the points we made about dating, this is how it's going to be relevant. It's like, those are things that we've experienced. Yeah. And like, they can directly relate to like anyone that's child free and like experiencing other people with kids. Like, It's a very similar thing. So I feel like that's why it hits harder for us when we talk about dating and marriage and all of that.
For sure.
And I just, maybe when I'm older and all of my cousins or friends who have kids, and if I don't have kids yet, maybe that will be the question.
Maybe.
And it's, how's the kids? And nobody's going to ask, and how are you?
Right.
Maybe I'll remind myself that. To not ask all the time, how's your kid? And how's this?
Yeah.
Like, maybe we ask, oh my God, how's your kid? They're doing well, cool. And how are you? What have you been up to? Like, that is what we need to be asking our friends.
Agreed. Regardless of life stage, just be open to different avenues of conversation starters.
Yeah.
Let's not just keep it to the one lane.
Yeah.
People.
And let's also not pity people for making a choice that maybe just not everyone else makes.
Yeah.
So whether that's to remain single or to not have kids or to be a freelancer or to
not get married.
Yeah, not get married, whatever the hell you want. Like, they don't need your pity.
Yeah.
They're doing just fine. And if they're not doing fine, it's probably not that choice that's causing them to not be fine.
Yes.
Especially if it's a choice.
We are so
Especially
profound.
if it's a choice.